The 2022 Oregon Sports Hall of Fame inductions are sponsored by and supported by Oregon Sports Action, Sunset Athletic Club, Oregonian Media Group, Sport Oregon, the McTarnahan Family Trust, and Willamette Valley Track and Field. This is Providence Park in Portland, Oregon. Legends and memories have been made here for 9 decades. Today, we honor 8 great names and their legacies. A festive tailgate reception is just the beginning. Welcome to the 41st induction ceremony of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. Your host is also a member of the Hall himself, Portland media legend Dwight James.
It's a beautiful day in Portland, inside and out. And I am so happy to be here today. It's a wonderful day for those being inducted and for all the rest of us to celebrate them and give them their due in an appropriate way at an appropriate time. Really pleased to be here, and I hope you are too. I've learned after emceeing several events over the years that the less of me, the better the event. So hopefully you won't be hearing me a lot. My job is to keep this thing going. We're not going to keep you here all day, but we're going to take the appropriate time for those being honored. So at this time, what I'd like to do is introduce you to the president of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame and a 2009 inductee himself, Chuck Richards.
Thank you. Well, welcome to our 41st celebration of the induction. It took a while to get here. I think this is the third date that we had in mind, and so it's been kind of a long haul, and I think you all know why for sure. But again, as Dwight says, congratulations to the inductees, also the scholarship winners that happen to be here today. And I want to acknowledge a few people and thank a few people for making this happen. None other, of course, than Mike Rose, the chair of our induction programming tonight, in the back, making sure it happens. Mike was instrumental in having the mascots all come, etc., which I thought was pretty terrific. He's ably assisted by Joel Roth over on my left. Thank you, Joel. And I saw Robert Baldwin here, who's part of our selection committee down here. Proud duck. Of course, there's a lot of proud ducks. So I'm really not conflicted. I'm an undergraduate in Indiana. Do you have any Hoosiers in the crowd? Probably. Yeah. You're going to sing the fight song with me? No, probably not. And I went to grad school for a while, flunked out at Oregon. No, I just didn't finish. But anyway, so I'm a proud Hoosier and a proud duck for sure. I want to also, the rest of our board is traveling or not here at the moment, but appreciate all the work that they do during the year and make it happen, from treasurers and selection committees to event participation, etc. So thank them for sure. And I want to introduce Scott McTarnahan, if he's there at the end. Belly up to the bar, Scott. Not really. I think he's a teetotaler. Scott and Scott's family provide the sponsorships to the high school athletes, and so I want to thank Scott and his dad that provided a lot of support to the Hall of Fame before him, Mac McTarnahan. So that's been a nice family connection. Thanks, Scott. Appreciate that. I'd like to thank Bob Akamian, who's right there in the back, directly above, and just waved. He's in charge of the audiovisual elements tonight and all the technology sorts of things that I don't know anything about. And so appreciate you stepping in. And before Bob came on board, Jeff Schrum, who's on our board, was able to do that, but is not here tonight. So Bob, thank you very much for stepping up. At the moment, the Hall of Fame is in storage at the Oregon Historical Society, and we continue to function, but we would like to find a home for to display some of our curated items and some storage. So any of you that have access to 3,000 or 4,000 square feet that would like a Hall of Fame to inhabit it on a first floor and give your facility a little prestige, etc. We have an amazing collection. You know, the history of sports in Oregon started about 1880, and so it's appropriately. It's got a lot of history to it. And Oregon, for some reason, don't know why, you're probably all why, the folks sitting here, but has always seemed to punch above its weight class in terms of the folks that, the athletes and the support of programs here, and look no further than the support of the Thorns back to the individual athletes. We have multiple gold medal winners in a century and a quarter ago. And so it's been rich, really, for sure. Just quick side note, I came here as an 11-year-old and swam in the old Nome Athletic Club. Some of you probably there. Walked into the baseball section, which was just before the stadium. Spring training was happening. You could smell the baseballs and the leather mitts and everything. And it just, you know, it just was a memory you don't forget. And it was pretty special. And I walked out in the stadium. Stadium was, 40 years old at that time. It was getting a little bit of age on it. But it was pretty impressionable. I had never seen as an 11-year-old anything like that. And it was pretty darn exciting. So it's still exciting today. The stadium was built in 1926. It's a historic structure here also, as you probably know. I also want to introduce Jim Etzel. Next year, Jim's group, Sport Oregon, is going to program and produce the Hall of Fame induction ceremony. And for us, and I'd like to introduce Jim, who's right here. He was worried about bumping his head, and he's going to say a few words. Thank you.
Thanks, Chuck, and great to be here tonight. Sport Oregon, for those of you who don't know, we're basically the nonprofit sports commission, and we're in our 30th year, formerly known as the Oregon Sports Authority. So we're very excited to work with the committee kind of on the succession plan of how this moves forward. Just an extremely dedicated group of volunteers and board members that have done an unbelievable job of, honoring the great accomplishments and athletes and coaches and administrators and everything that have done so much to build an incredible sports legacy in our state. And so we're just super excited and humbled to be a part of it moving forward. So thank you.
Thanks, Jim. So on with the induction, and congratulations again to those that are being inducted, including teams. How many Oregon Tech connected folks are here tonight? Yeah. Now you can sing your fight song, I'm sure. Okay, Dwight, it's to you.
Thank you, Chuck. I did not know you were a Hoosier. My daughter is married to a guy from Indiana, and my son is married to a girl from Indiana, which, of course, if you think about it, makes me Hoosier daddy. Think about it a little bit for those of you who...
I have something appropriate for you then, Dwight. You can't keep it, but you can wear it there.
All right, I think I've worn it long enough. Here you go, Chuck. I don't like to wear other people's hats. I'm sorry. As you know, every year the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame awards up to 6 $3,000 scholarships for Oregon high school graduating seniors. Recipients are chosen on the basis of financial need, athletic accomplishment, academic achievement, and community involvement. And it has to be used in an institution of higher education within the state of Oregon. Once again, I'd like to thank Scott McTarnahan for providing the scholarship funding and for all his work on the committee, and a special thanks to Scott for his continued commitment in helping Oregon seniors get to college. The scholarships are a fantastic program and honor for the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame and the McTarnahan family. We really appreciate it. Scott, come on up.
Well, Too many tall guys. Totally off the subject. Bill Shonley's not here, but I got Dad's ring. I told him Dad would be here every year. Dad was the first Masters athlete inducted in the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame. They realized after a while that it's tougher as a Masters to be a champion than it is when you're a young kid and you heal easy. Anyway, our scholarships are not full rides or anything. They're supplemental. And what they're meant to do is let kids get to school that might not have got there because of a financial need. And I get pessimistic sometimes when I read the paper and hear about all these things that are happening. But people congratulate me about taking care of this thing and donating this money. But actually, I'm pretty selfish because I get the greatest feeling when I get to read these applications about these young men and women that are just fantastic citizens. They're somebody you'd want to be your neighbor forever. They're just the nicest young men and women you'd ever see. And I have an example today that I'd like to give you. Over there at the bar is Ron Ruchek. We've been friends for 62 years. He took it upon himself to finance himself through college at Oregon State. And because it was so hard to do, he took terms off to earn money to be able to stay in school. Now, see, I had the privilege to, it was paid for, I could go every term, no problem. This guy even went to Alaska and did dangerous logging to make money. And I think to myself, I was in this habit, grade school, high school, college, midterms, finals, exams, unannounced tests, everything, papers due, books, reports. You get in the habit and you can do it. But I have the utmost respect for people that, for one reason or another, had to take time off and then had the fortitude to come back and do it. Because I realize I'm an imperfect person, and if I had that freedom of not having to be there that day at that time, not having to be respectful for that teacher who I didn't like, not having to get these reports done on time, I'm not sure I would have gone back. The freedom would have been fantastic, but these people had the fortitude, the guts to go back, earn their own money, and do it. So what I wanted to do in our program, we've done this now for 21 years, is let these kids avoid that hassle, hopefully because they're all great students, they're good athletes in participation, and very importantly, they've done great community service. I don't want them to not only miss, but have to avoid terms and then have that dedication to come back because of money. So, like I said, when I get congratulated about generosity, I'm really selfish because I really feel great about this because this is something I don't think I could have done. Anyway, these are the good kids. These are the ones we should all honor.
And here are this year's McTarnahan Scholarship winners.
Joey Gartrell, Canby High School, baseball, football, choir, and wrestling. Now attending the University of Portland. Kylie Burke, Waldport High School, volleyball, basketball, and track and field. Now attending Linfield University. Luke Williams, Mountain View High School, football, wrestling, and rugby. Now attending OSU Cascades. Elias Sanchez Rodriguez, North Salem High School, cross country, track and field, swimming, and robotics. Now attending Lane Community College. Isaac Urbina, Pendleton High School, football, wrestling, and golf. Now attending Pacific University. Jesse Hart, Sweet Home High School, cross country, track and field, and wrestling. Now attending Western Oregon University.
And ladies and gentlemen, we're fortunate to have two of this year's winners be able to be here today. Let's welcome up Joey Gartrell and Isaac Urbina, along with Scott, for their certificates. Okay, Isaac, you're first. Isaac. Come on, let's hear it for him. And now it's time to honor the memories of our Hall of Fame members who have passed away.
Neil Steinhauer, track and field, inducted 1982. Greg Strobel, wrestling, inducted 2016. Jim Brockman, East Bank Saloon basketball, inducted 2018. Art Jones, hockey, inducted 1984. Suzanne Zimmerman Edwards, swimming, inducted 1988. Jack Scrivens, handball, inducted 1986. Gary Cox, 1966 Linfield baseball, inducted 2005. Eddie Bazinski, baseball, inducted 1987. Pete Ward, baseball, inducted 1985. Kenny Moore, track and field, inducted 2019. Gloria Bouvier, bowling, inducted 1994. Rockney Freitas, football, inducted 2020.
At this time, I'd like to add someone to our list. You may know him, I guess most of you do. Steve Brandon, a former colleague of mine at the Oregon Journal, the Oregonian, and the Portland Tribune, passed away recently, and it's something that hit us all hard. He's been very active in the Hall of Fame, preparing things for this banquet and so many other things, and also the PIL Hall of Fame. He's been very involved in that, and Steve was a giver his whole career as a sports writer, and I'm proud to have known him. He's the best sports editor I ever worked for, and we're all trying to keep his memory alive as much as possible as an inspiration to us to live a better life. So I want to ask you to please, let's hear it one more time for all those who passed away, and my friend Steve Brandon. Okay, now let's get some work done. It's time to meet our new members of the class of 22. We'll start with a local boy who made good. It's a classic tale in sports and in life. The east side of Portland and Gresham has been the launching pad for the careers of many of our Hall of Fame members, including this basketball legend.
You may know him as Freddie, Frederick, or just Fred. Last name, Jones. He is an Oregon original on the basketball court, from Gresham to the University of Oregon to the NBA. Frederick Jones burst on the scene at Barlow High School beginning in 1995. The super athletic wing could play anywhere on the floor. A gym rat who spent all hours working on his game, Jones became one of the most dynamic Oregon prep players of all time. The Bruins won 45 straight Mount Hood Conference games and made 3 trips to the state tournament. Fred finished his career as the all-time school leader in 7 categories and was named State Player of the Year twice. His senior year, he averaged 29 points and 9 rebounds per game. At the University of Oregon, Freddie Jones emerged in his sophomore year, part of the Ducks' breakthrough return to the NCAA tournament. By his senior year, he was a candidate for Pac-10 Player of the Year. The 2002 Ducks made a thrilling march to the Elite Eight, and Jones would finish his career with over 1,600 points. Fred Jones was the first-round choice of the Indiana Pacers in the 2002 draft. That began a 7-year NBA career that included stops with the Raptors, Clippers, Knicks, and Trailblazers. He won the 2004 Slam Dunk competition and made 3 playoff trips in his 4 seasons with the Pacers. When his NBA career ended in 2009, Jones was not done with basketball, so he spent 2 more seasons in Italy and China. Jones returned to U of O to complete his degree while serving as an undergraduate assistant coach. Now a basketball entrepreneur, Fred Jones is eagerly following the budding career of his godson, Jalen Atkins, back at Barlow High School. He is a member of the U of O Hall of Fame. Today we welcome Fred Jones to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
As most of you know, Fred Jones was the type of man who ingratiated himself with fans of whatever city he was playing in. Extremely popular in Indianapolis, where he was drafted and played for the Pacers so well. He's unable to attend tonight, but we add our congratulations. Fred Jones. The National Hockey League may not have noticed the Rose City yet. It should, but it still hasn't. Portland's been a hockey town for decades. The Winterhawks, the Rosebuds, and the Buckaroos have all produced their share of great memories and championships. Today, we welcome an all-time favorite.
Connie Madigan is one of the most popular players in the history of the beloved Portland Buckaroos hockey team. Long before he became the oldest rookie in National Hockey League history, he was a leader and an enforcer for 20 years on amateur and minor league teams. The Buckaroos may not have been an NHL team, but they were the city of Portland's prime sports attraction for much of the 1960s. Madigan arrived early in the 1965 season. It was already his 10th year in hockey. His contract was purchased by coach and owner Hal Lyko. Connie made a splash in his very first game, scoring the game-winning goal in overtime at the Coliseum, and he did it again in the second game of his Portland career. But Madigan would be known much more for his physical play supporting his teammates. He would record 2,944 penalty minutes. At the time, that was the second most career minutes in the box in the history of minor league hockey. And all of that helped the Buckaroos win. Portland went to postseason 8 consecutive years with Connie on the roster. Madigan was a regular Western Hockey League All-Star and was named Defenseman of the Year in 1966. Finally, in 1972, at age 38, Connie Madigan achieved the dream of any hockey player. He was called to join the St. Louis Blues in the NHL. It was a cup of coffee, 25 games, 3 assists, 29 penalty minutes. Connie didn't want to go back down after that, but he would play 4 more seasons for the Buckaroos until the franchise folded in 1976. His hockey skills came in handy at the end of his career when he played, naturally, a tough guy defender in the classic hockey film Slapshot. The toughest guy on ice in any era, we welcome Connie Madigan to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
It's been a long time, but I'm glad you're here, Connie. Happy 88th birthday, by the way.
Thank you.
I was a big Buckaroo fan in those days, and I remember when you came in here playing for the Spokane Comets, they booed you right off the ice almost. But as soon as you got traded to Portland, you were the biggest hero that ever played here. You scored a goal the first game in here as a Buckaroo. What was that like?
Well, I got here on a Friday because I was in Providence, Rhode Island, and didn't want to get any money, so Harry come up with some money.
Harry Glickman.
And I came here on Friday, and he says, "Oh, you won't play much." So I said, "Okay." So Saturday night, all the people here, there was 11,000. They broke a record or something. Anyway, I played for LA Blades the year before. We went to the finals and lost, but Portland wasn't in the finals. But anyway, we were playing them, and I went into overtime. And Howie Young, you probably, if you're a hockey fan, you probably known him. He went to pass the puck, and he was my partner when I played in LA. And he went to pass the puck out, and it was only about, I don't know, a couple of minutes into overtime, and put it on my stick, and I shot it. A winner, right? Well, I'll tell you, Jim Hay, my partner,
Red Eye.
He was jumping on my back, and I didn't know what was going on. But boy, what a story that was.
It was. It was crazy in that building. The one thing, Connie, and I was around in those days that I remember the most, you were known for fighting because you were a tough guy. You didn't lose many fights, but you were a great defenseman. Defenseman of the year, you were on the All-Star team multiple times. That wasn't for your fighting, that was for your playing. Is it ever frustrating to you that people only remembers you as a tough guy?
Not really, because, I mean, they always remember you're fighting and winning or whatever it was, I mean, and you lose too, I mean, there was a lot of tough guys in the Western Hockey League.
Yeah.
And you had to go through it. And when you played, you got to stick up for the guys like Art Jones and Arnie Smots, those smaller guys, and take care of the business. And that's what I done. And it made out all right. And it was good. I mean, but, I was, the players voted you, the All-Star, the other players in the other league, like we voted for San Diego or all the other teams, and they voted for us. So
it was legitimate.
Yeah. So if you made the All-Star team and you got votes from the other guys, well, you did something.
Oh, you definitely did something. One thing, well, I've known you for quite a while now, Connie, and I've never had a chance to ask you. You were in Slapshot. Now, they tell me that Paul Newman could actually skate a little bit. What kind of a hockey player was Paul Newman?
Well, it was funny when we got there, Johnstown, Pennsylvania, and he was putting skates on, and he couldn't skate. I mean, there was no skating with him. And they had a second. And
A double?
yeah, and for some reason, the cameras was so great, and he was supposed to be on the ice, right? Well, he was on the ice, all of a sudden, boom, that left, he was on. So the one morning, he's having troubles with the skates, so we took the skates off, and I taped his ankles so he wouldn't.
Oh, so his ankles held it, yeah.
But he'd just skate behind the guy, but it'd be, a couple minutes later. But it was awesome how they done it. I mean,
It looked like he could skate in the movie.
Yeah, it looked like when they scored, and he's got his hands up in the air, and the guy got him, and you're thinking, how did they do that?
Movie magic.
We used to watch after every night, you'd go on in the morning, and then sometimes you might have to go in the afternoon. But anyway, that was in Johnstown. And then you'd watch what went on, and they'd do the cutting. They'd cut things out they didn't like. If they didn't like it, they just cut it out. Next day, they put it back in, and you'd think, what's going on here? But he was awesome in there. And his brother, he looked after everything, but he was sort of he didn't like to give any money away,
He should have been involved in hockey then.
Right.
Connie, I think it's time for us to do some business now, so I'm going to ask you to stand up, and we're going to give you a little trophy here, a little piece of memorabilia. Oh, man, could he play hockey, I'll tell you. We move on. Some people know exactly what they want to do and make plans to achieve their goals. Our next member decided very early in life she would blaze new trails for herself and for the good of others.
She has been a woman ahead of her time, again and again. Becky Sisley's legacy as an athlete, coach, official, administrator, and advocate stretches across multiple states and 7 decades. She came to the University of Oregon in 1965 as a PE instructor and coach. Her career would advance, becoming full professor, and in 1973, the school's first women's athletic director. Sisley also held other leadership roles in women's sports, including the AIAW, the precursor to the NCAA for women's championships. Title IX began a new era for women's collegiate sports, but the progress did not come fast enough. Becky resigned as athletic director in 1979 and focused on teaching and advocacy. In 1987, she founded the Oregon Women's Sports Leadership Network. In 1988, she found herself back in competition at age 49 as a masters athlete. Becky had played field hockey and softball in her early years, but track and field opened new doors in her life. Competing in high jump, long jump, triple jump, and javelin, she would excel, setting 9 American and 3 world age group records. Masters track also took Sisley around the world, traveling internationally to Spain, Finland, and South Africa, among others. Even after retiring as a professor in 2000, she continued to teach a women's sports and gender equity course for many more years. The U of O now recognizes former female athletes every year with the Becky Sisley Award. Now retired from competition and officiating, and with a new puppy in the house, she continues to lead and mentor in so many ways. Today, we welcome Becky Sisley to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Becky, in Seattle in your high school days, I was around at that time. There weren't a lot of athletic opportunities for young girls. What drove you and your thirst for participating in sports at that time?
Well, when I was a sophomore in high school, there was someone at my school that was playing summer league softball, and I happened to go out, and there I learned about being coached and having fun and traveling. In fact, we were in the Northwest Women's Major Softball League. We came to Eugene. It was called the Banana Belt when it came to Eugene, and I liked the challenge to learn skills. And this was not just high school people. You know, it was people that worked at Boeing's and people that worked different places around town in Seattle. And so that got me going into softball. And then, of course, pretty soon I learned about the Irvine Florists.
Oh, yeah. For people my age, the Irvine Florists were legendary women's softball team that competed for national championships.
And my senior year in college, they were going to travel around the U.S. at a month-long tour, and so I asked if I could join the team. And so I played with a Portland team, Irvine Florist, from 1961 to 65. That was a year after Irvine passed away, and the team stayed together for another year. I played more softball after that, too, but it was, traveling, learning skills, developing skills that challenged me. I liked that, to get better. And so that's how I got going into it.
And it sounds like of all the sports you were so proficient in, softball was one that really kind of had the biggest influence on you?
Well, it had the biggest influence is because it affected my development of my professional career. After I got my master's in Women's College in University of North Carolina, went to teach at Wisconsin, I wrote an article and a guide about the coached game, how you could teach people by coaching them in a practice like a game. And that got printed. And then I got asked to edit the softball guide, be in charge of it. It's my professional drive, a big professional drive. And then I got elected to edit 8 different guides, for 2 years, and I served on the national committee related to girls and women's sports and the development of sports right when things were really were really happening about sports. So I think that the sport of softball had a huge impact on my professional career, but it was partly because of my own desire to be a good educator and a professional person, and that brought me. I got back to Oregon where it was nicer weather than in Wisconsin, for sure.
Well, obviously, women's sports are in a different place now. How do you feel about the progress you've seen for women and girls in sports nowadays?
Well, it's tremendous. This is the 50th year of the anniversary of Title IX. So there's been a lot of specialized programs. There's been a lot of data presented about the growth of women in sports because of Title IX and the enhancement of, like, through the high school federation, how many participants are in. And I think that's fantastic. It should be the same as what guys have, the same. And in high school, we couldn't play other sports. I grabbed teammates from my high school and entered us into a city championship, and we won the city championship. And in high school, you couldn't play other schools. You had to do sports days or play days where you mixed. It wasn't good to compete as a team. So the whole atmosphere has changed. And in fact, I wrote my dissertation about the attitudes of women towards the conduct of intercollegiate athletics for women because of the huge change that happened in attitudes of what was appropriate. What's good for the guys is good for the gals, everything,
And Becky, because of your master's sports career, it's taken you all over the world. How great has that been?
Well, I thought there are 3 main things that happened because of being a master's. First, I got to travel all over the world. As you said, I've been to Spain, I've been to Finland twice, I've been to South Africa, I've been to Buffalo for a world championship.
Quit bragging now.
That happened to be in Buffalo. And I made a lot of friends. In fact, when the world championship was in Buffalo, the nationals were in Michigan State before. So I met a pole vaulter from South Africa at Michigan, and we became friends. And then a few years later, the world meet was in Durban, South Africa. So guess what? I went early. I stayed with Pietra in Pretoria, near Johannesburg. And then we drove from Johannesburg down to Durban for the meet. And then she took my pole vault and my javelin, my main implements, and I flew to Port Elizabeth, and then I went to Cape Town, and then I traveled and met up with a heptathlete colleague that I met that was from Namibia and stayed at her house and went to the skeletal coast of Namibia, and then I flew back to Johannesburg, and she met me there with my pole vault and javelin, and I flew home. Friends all over the world. And I've been to Moscow and Leningrad to compete. Because of track and wanting excitement, and it sure was exciting. I'll tell you that, because I competed in Moscow 3 weeks before the coup. It was still the USSR.
Yeah.
And I saw them there. I was going to do the hurdles. They had bricks that they were pounding on to get the hurdle level. It wasn't just a pull a notch and slide it up a spot. If you know how to move hurdles and send them at the right spot. So I've had a lot of interesting travel and met interesting people. And then, of course, the challenge for me is to develop skill. The challenge to get better, practice, get better. So.
Becky, we are honored to honor you. So now it's time for the hardware, okay?
Oh, okay.
Wow. That was great, Becky. That was great. I swear. Good luck to everybody that has to follow that. There was a time when you grew up with neighborhood heroes. You couldn't wait to follow in the footsteps of the big kids. You dreamed of wearing that uniform and winning championships. The next inductee had all of those dreams come true. Then he made a career helping others achieve theirs.
The best coaches are the best teachers. That's the 34-year coaching legacy of Dave Gasser, a baseball life that has touched generations at 4 Oregon high schools. Gasser grew up in the east side hotbed of Portland baseball surrounding Madison High School. He watched the Senators win state championships in the early 60s, then played on 2 title teams himself, as well as the 1969 American Legion national champions. His introduction to coaching was 2 seasons at Canby before returning to his alma mater. Madison won 8 consecutive PIL titles and the 1981 state championship under his guidance. Gasser thought his coaching career might be over after he moved to Lake Ridge for a teaching position in 1991. But 1 year later, he became the Pacers' head baseball coach, kicking off another 11 years of excellence, winning 2 more state titles. Gasser's success was based on a very unflashy philosophy: develop skills, maximize strengths, emphasize team success. After the first 25 years, it seemed to be time for retirement on the Oregon coast. That's where Astoria Athletic Director Howard Rube lured Gasser back into the dugout in 2006, and success would follow. The school's commitment to improving facilities and a talented group of players featuring future Oregon State and NFL star Jordan Poyer won 2 more state titles. Retirement number 2 for Coach Gasser began after the 2010 season, but it only lasted 3 years. There would be 1 more comeback, 5 more seasons with the Fishermen, and then a final step away in 2017. 34 seasons, 750 wins. Dave's teaching lives on online in his series of training videos. Elected to the Oregon High School Baseball Coaches Hall of Fame in 2004, we now welcome Dave Gasser to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
All right, Dave. I've been around since dirt, was put in the original infield, but people who weren't around don't understand what baseball was in the Madison High School area back when you were growing up. It was such a great tradition, starting with people like Rick Wise and Keith Lampert and people like that who went to the Little League World Series, and it just continued on. It seems to me that Madison High School had to be kind of the center of your love for the game.
Well, without question, if I hadn't been a Madison kid, I wouldn't be sitting here. I grew up, driving around neighborhoods playing wiffle ball and over the line, and I discovered sports was great fun, especially with my friends. And then I discovered that excellence at Madison was just normal. I didn't realize that, but when you hear about Little League teams, Babe Ruth teams, Legion teams going to the World Series, you sit right here and watch Rick Wise win a state title sitting next to Tom, and we're going, well, we want to do that, when we get there, and then having those things happen. But the main thing, I guess, from Madison that I realized is if you love the people you're playing with, and there's a bunch of them here, and I love them. They were the first brothers I ever had. And if you really care about your teammates, there's literally no amount of effort you won't expend to be successful with them.
I was always curious, your playing career ended after high school. What led you into coaching?
Well, at college, I discovered that I liked learning the stuff I was really interested in. So I had a couple subjects, English and social studies, I wanted to teach, and I realized somehow I had a gift for teaching, And as soon as I realized I was going into education, baseball was the number one thing I wanted to teach, because it was the thing not only I understood best, but I had so much value out of the experience. So I wanted to share that with others, and that got me into it.
And then you retired from coaching probably more times than Sugar Ray Leonard retired from boxing. What was that all about?
Well, it seemed appropriate at the time, but the catch is that the value I got from working with kids and helping them develop and improve and discover that the world didn't have to rotate around them, that in fact there were bigger things than individuals. I wanted to help them discover how much better it was to make themselves part of something bigger than them. And I missed that. I missed my coaching brothers. It was the second set of adopted friends that I had, and some of them are here that I coached with at various schools, and I can't tell you how important they were to me. And my family kind of lacked all those extra pieces. I played with my son and daughter in the backyard, and it was a blast. And then all of a sudden, fellow coaches were playing with us, and the kids were dropping in, and my wife was making everybody feel welcome and engaged. And every time I stepped out, I was missing all those connections, those relational connections, including athletic directors and principals that helped me. It was just such a community thing that, one more whirl would seem like a good idea.
And a lot of people don't realize, Dave, when you go to coach football, they don't ask you to make the football field. When you go to coach basketball, you don't have to build the gym. But when you coach baseball, it seems like a common denominator for most coaches. You got to take care of the field, or even build dugouts and press boxes and grandstands. Am I right? I mean, it's a big job.
Yeah, I did it a few times.
I bet.
I remember at Madison once, I was going out to drag the infield when it was all dirt with my '67 Chevy Bel Air. And if you're dragging the drag with you, I got in a hurry sometimes. And I was dragging the drag, and I went over one of Bill Fransky's starting blocks on the track. That does some serious damage to your trunk. But the beauty of building fields is, criminy, you get the whole community involved, and you find out how many people out there in the community and the private sector really care about kids, and they go the extra mile to help you build those things, and that was pretty special too.
Yeah. Last question. In the Baseball Hall of Fame, they ask guys, well, you played for 4 teams. Which hat are you going to wear when you go into the Hall of Fame, or which uniform top? If you had to do that for this Hall of Fame, which one would it be?
Well, I'd kind of put together a smorgasbord, to be honest, because Canby would be the undersleeves, because I was barely older than the players. I mean, Pat Casey was playing against us at Newburgh.
Yeah.
So I was barely older. I didn't know what I was doing. My son was born, and when he turned 1, we won our first league title. So I got to have those undersleeves. The uniform is Madison. That's home. That's family. That's it. That's where I grew the love. So the uniform top has to be Madison. That's where my daughter was born before my first state playoff win. She was 1 when we won the state title. It's Madison. My warm-up jacket is Lake Ridge, because I was maybe kind of figuring a few things out and maturing, getting a little more mature perspective. Maybe not quite as fired up, because I had my wife helping me settle down at times. It was my over-competitive nature. And there was divine intervention at times to even help me be civil to umpires over time as I grew up.
I think I saw 1 or 2 of those, yes.
Yeah, I'm sure you did. But the warm-up jackets, Lake Ridge, where I got a chance to coach my children's peers, I got to coach my son, one of the best ones ever. Wessie, you're there, and I'm going to coach your 8-year-old team next year. I'm coming out of retirement again. But Lake Ridge was a place where it was important, and it was important because of my kids and their friends and having those experiences. Last is the Hats Astoria, no question about it. That capped it off, and without that stint, I wouldn't be sitting here, because all kind of the landmark things happened, and I had grandkids running around the field.
Oh, wow.
But, by the time you're looking at the kids you're coaching and they could be your grandchildren, it's time to quit adopting children. It's gotten a little out of hand. Because, to be honest, I love my players like I love my assistant coaches and my teammates. That was the main thing driving the bus.
Dave Gasser, it's time to, we don't want to go extra innings here. Dave Gasser, inducted 2022. I guess you're not going to dance around with it or mimic pitching or any of that stuff, so. Okay, it's time now. I'm going to take a short break, just a little time out here, to acknowledge our current members of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame who are here today. We have 22 past inductees in attendance today, and what I'd like is for them to stand and be recognized now. I didn't think you were going to stand up, Rick. It gets a little harder to stand up, right, at a certain point in your life. All right, sometimes the greats do one thing and do it well. Put a team on their back, lead game after game. One of the top women's basketball players in Oregon State history did that almost every night during her 4-year career.
Felicia Ragland was an immediate difference maker when she arrived at Oregon State University in the fall of 1998. She would become an Iron Woman leader for OSU hoops for 4 consecutive years, starting all but one of 118 games. By the end of her senior year, Fee was ranked in the OSU top 10 in 14 different categories. She'd been named All Pac-10 3 times and was Pac-10 Player of the Year in 2002. The Beavers' win total also improved every year with her on the roster. Ragland already had great basketball tools as a freshman, long arms and a hard-nosed work ethic on defense. The steal and score was her signature highlight. The young woman, known to her teammates as Fee, was also a sponge, adding and improving skills every season. She would sleep in the gym if you let her. Her long first step was an asset, and it was even better with her ability to turn the corner off the dribble. When she focused on improving her outside shot as a junior, she became the Beavers' best three-point threat. Her junior season, Ragland was number 3 in the country, hitting 46% from beyond the arc. Career totals of 1,803 points, 739 rebounds, 264 assists, and 258 steals. She recorded 13 20-point games and 4 30-point games. Felicia's number 34 jersey is one of only 2 women's basketball jerseys to be retired and hung in the rafters of Gill Coliseum. Ragland is the first Beaver player to be drafted into the WNBA. She was a second-round pick of the Seattle Storm and went on to play 4 professional seasons with the Storm, Phoenix, and finally in Houston with her longtime idol Cheryl Swoops. She is back home in California's Central Valley these days, teaching and coaching boys basketball at Wonderful College Prep Academy in Delano. Today, we welcome Felicia Ragland to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Felicia Ragland leads a very busy life down in California. She sent along this greeting to everyone here today.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, so sorry that I could not make it out to the induction ceremony. I just gave birth to my baby girl, Acacia, in August, so I'm actually on leave right now, and I can't really travel with a newborn, so sorry I couldn't be there with you all today. But I want to thank Bob and the rest of the committee for putting on this induction ceremony. I'm very honored and blessed to be thought about all these years later, to be put in as a nominee and then actually inducted into the Hall of Fame. That's truly an honor and a blessing. But first and foremost, I couldn't have done it without God. Secondly, my family really was supportive and pushed me to get out of Tulare, my hometown, and do something with my life. So being able to go to Oregon State and play for Judy Spolstra and all the assistants that went through there, it was just one of the most exciting moments in my life. Something that I still think about to this day. My playing days. Oregon State was just good to me. I have no regrets on going there. Just the atmosphere, the community, the fans. It was just a really fun time for me playing for Oregon State, and it was a struggle at times being a student athlete, but with the help of my coaches and our support system there for women's basketball was just phenomenal, and really pushed their athletes to go above and beyond and just be better people. So it was just a fun time there. Like I said, I worked my butt off to get to where I am at today, and it's just truly a blessing, like I said, to be thought of and to be in this class with all the other wonderful members as well. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate that. Currently, I'm living in Tulare, California. I'm coaching and teaching at a high school here, coaching varsity boys basketball and just living life and just trying to instill and teach my student athletes the things that I was taught when I was at Oregon. So just trying to give back to my community and just help them be better people, when they graduate and move forward. So just living life here, taking it day by day, but, enjoying myself. So anyways, once again, thank you, everyone. It's truly an honor and a blessing. And like I said, I couldn't have done it without my support system during those times. So thank you once again. Sorry I couldn't be there. So enjoy the rest of your time, and cheers. Go Beavers.
Officials do the work they do because they love to be a part of the game. Many of them played the game they officiate. Our next new member of the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame took up the whistle at a young age and found a career he loved.
Terry Durham knew he loved being a referee when he was paid 25 cents per game as a middle school student in McMinnville. His assignment? Working elementary school age games. The multi-sport athlete and son of a legendary coach would eventually work 24 seasons at the highest level, the National Basketball Association. Growing up in Yamhill County, sports was a year-round affair. Durham was a standout at Mac High in football, basketball, and baseball. After graduation, Terry excelled at the next level, playing the same three sports at Linfield College. Success at Linfield meant trips to national playoffs, as well as the added pressure of playing football for his father. Paul Durham was the coach who started the Linfield streak of 65 consecutive winning seasons. Football was Terry's best sport as an athlete. He would land tryouts in the NFL and played a year in the Continental Football League before beginning his own career as a coach and teacher. That allowed him time to resume officiating high school games, college games, summer camps, and that would whet his appetite for a job in the pros. Durham calls officiating the perfect job because of the pursuit of perfection, making the right call every time. Terry got the call to the NBA in 1978 and was a fixture with a whistle until 2002. The grind of long NBA seasons and relentless travel was rewarded with lifetime relationships with many coaches and players. In retirement, Terry still watches a lot of basketball. He's an avid reader and walker and enjoys time with his 7 grandchildren. Already a member of the McMinnville High School and Linfield Halls of Fame, we now welcome Terry Durham to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Come on up, Terry. Great to see you, Terry. Great to have you here.
Thank you much.
24 seasons in the NBA. I think I watched you get yelled at by every coach in basketball.
Well, most of them did.
Yeah, that's what they were paid to do, I guess. Running up and down the floor, 48 minutes, 24 seasons. How did you stay fit all that time, stay in shape?
Well, during the season, it wasn't very difficult because we stayed in Marriott's. They had a workout room. They had a pool. I went swimming, swam laps every day when I wasn't working. We got on a bike in the weight room and did that. So during that time, it was okay. The problem was in the summer when I would balloon up to about 240 pounds. And my weigh-in weight on October 1st was 200. And August 1st, the light would go on, and I'd quit eating and start walking, fast walk, riding a bike, swimming a mile every day. And I ended up making weight every time at 200 pounds, and then I'd go find the closest ice cream store in the world.
That's my diet. I'm on that diet, yeah. Terry, you worked in the NBA in a glorious era with people like Magic and Bird and Michael Jordan. How did you handle the star power, all those stars that were in the game at that time?
Well, before I got in the game as a referee in the NBA, I watched exclusively basketball. I watched all sports, but really watched basketball as I know what I wanted to do. And those players, though, would always challenge you, and they weren't the only ones. There's somebody on every team who would challenge you. The coach would challenge you, and you'd have to take care of them one way or another. And if you could talk them down, you'd do that, and some you couldn't. And you hit them with technical fouls, and then you kick them out of the game. And so you get a reputation that don't mess with him, because he'll dump you. Yeah. And I dumped a few of them.
That's great. I love hearing that. You're watching games now. Do you get as much enjoyment out of watching a game as you did when you were working a game?
The problem with that is that I watch the officials more than I watch the game.
Yeah, I get that.
And so I don't watch the moves or everything, but I watch the officials' positioning, what they call, how they call it. And I wish they have replay now, and I wish that they had replay when I was working.
Yeah.
To correct all my dang mistakes. For crying out loud.
You didn't make that many mistakes.
I did a game in Portland, and at that time, my mother and my wife, when I was married, went to the game, and I made a call into the game that cost Portland the win. And my mother and my wife at that time wouldn't speak to me in the way home.
Your father, Paul, was quite a taskmaster as coach down in Linfield. And I look back on his years there and what he began and the tradition in that program. Could you see at the time what he was building, Terry?
No, it was real difficult for me because I was so close to what was going on. And I had my own sports in high school, football, basketball, and baseball, and I didn't have time to really watch what was going on in Linfield until I went to school there and started playing football for my father. And there was a story where we went, my junior year, we went back to Augusta, Georgia to play in the national championships and got our butts kicked terribly. And we went to the banquet afterwards, and we had some African Americans and Hawaiians on our team, and they wouldn't let them into the restaurant. We were having the banquet.
Yeah.
And my father said, the gentleman said they'd have to eat in the kitchen. And my dad said, we're going to all eat in the kitchen then. And the guy said there wasn't room. There wasn't room for all of the team. And so he says, oh, that's fine. He says, then everybody from Linfield College is not going to eat dinner. So we sat in there, we didn't eat dinner, and the other team had their dinner, and they had the banquet, and then I had their awards and so forth. And he was then, the next year, he was the person of the year for the NAIA for what he did at that thing.
Yeah, and kids did get fed though, didn't they?
Yeah,
He took care of that?
When it was all over with, he somehow, I don't know how he got it all, but he gave each football player $5. We all went out and got a hamburger.
Great job, Terry.
Thank you.
It's time to give you that big plate, okay? There's a very well-known football coach who has made a lot of stops in his career. He won a lot of games and is part of more than one Hall of Fame. He has coached in the state of Oregon and did very well here as well. Can you guess who it is?
Dennis Erickson's time as head coach of the Oregon State Beavers was only a 4-season slice of a 47-year career in football. But no one in Corvallis will forget that time, the end of the 29-year streak of losing seasons, 3 bowl trips, top 5 national rankings. Coach Erickson always had a feel for OSU and Corvallis. He visited as a young assistant coach and was a candidate for the head coaching job as early as 1985. When the job came open following the 1998 season, Dennis was looking to get back into the college game and knew what he was getting into. Mike Riley had built a base, including a walk-on quarterback, Jonathan Smith, and running back, Ken Simonton. Coach Erickson dipped into the junior college ranks his first couple of years with some spectacular results. Big play receivers Chad Johnson and TJ Hushmanzada and defensive stars DeLawrence Grant and Ladarius Jackson were some of the difference makers. 1999 was a classic Erickson quick turnaround season, 7-5 record, and the first bowl trip in 35 years. The turn of the century dawned with the best and brightest season in Beaver history. 11-1, a shared Pac-10 championship, and the epic 41-9 thrashing of Notre Dame in the Fiesta Bowl. OSU finished the season ranked number 4 in the country. The success brought even more talented players to Corvallis. The Beavers opened the 2001 season on the cover of Sports Illustrated with a preseason number 1 ranking. Erickson's 2002 team was another bowl qualifier. The NFL came calling again, and the Erickson era ended too soon. But the die was cast for continued Oregon State success for another decade. His OSU record of 31-17, 3 bowl trips, and the best season ever is why we welcome Dennis Erickson to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
Dennis is still very active following football and cannot be with us today. He did, however, record this greeting for all of us.
Sorry I couldn't make it today, but I had a hip replacement and couldn't travel, so I'd like to thank the Oregon Hall of Fame for the honor. But the honor's not about me. It's about everybody that was involved in the 4 years that I was there, the assistant coaches, obviously the players, the administration, managers, everybody was involved, and that was the family feeling that we had at Oregon State when I was there. I can't remember a time that I had so much fun. I had so much coaching those guys, had so much fun being around the alumni. it was just fun, and it was a great place to coach, and like I said, great fans and all the great things that could happen in a football program. The 2000 team, I got to talk about them. I mean, that was a special team, a team that if they had a national championship playoff, they probably would have won the whole damn thing. But of course, at that time, they didn't have that playoff, and we couldn't get a chance to get in that Final Four and win it all. But God, what a fun time, and it's just been unbelievable. You know, I certainly hope that myself and my staff and the people around me had some influence on Oregon State football. You know, I look at the new facilities, I look at the fans when I go to games, the excitement and all that stuff, and feel very proud that I may have had something to do with that, and very proud of what's happening at Oregon State, and very, very special. I'd be remiss if I didn't thank Mike Riley, who was before and after me, and he recruited some players that played on that 2000 team, and is a great Beaver, and I just wanted to thank him. Now it's what's going to happen now. You got the best football coach, I think, in the country, in Jonathan Smith. Obviously, I'm prejudiced. He played for me, but he's got to go in the right direction. I know programs, and I know when they're making progress and where they're at. Believe me, he's going to take you to the Rose Bowl. When, I'm not sure, but he's going to take you to the Rose Bowl. I've watched him play every game, and they had some injuries and stuff in this last game, but where they're at right now and before, where they were before is unbelievable, and he will continue to get it going, and they will win, believe me. There's no questions, no ifs and ands about that. But again, thanks for the honor, and I always have a special place in my heart for Oregon State, so go Bees.
I will add to that. Dennis Erickson is one of the most special people I've ever met. He's done so many kindnesses for people behind the scenes that no one knows about. And he once told me he thought maybe the biggest mistake he made in coaching was ever leaving Oregon State. Yeah, he misses it a lot, and he's a great guy. I know he takes some heat sometimes for all his moves and a perception of cheating, people say, but you know, in college football, if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And I don't know that he even did that. I really don't. But I know he's a hell of a football coach and a hell of a guy. All right, we move on. Oregon Tech basketball is a small. Oregon Tech basketball is a small wonder in the sports world. Year after year, the Owls have packed them in Klamath Falls. Those hardworking teams are fun to watch, and they win a lot of games along the way. Today, we honor 3 of the best teams in program history.
Oregon Tech basketball made 17 trips to the NAIA national tournaments under legendary coach Danny Miles. 3 of those teams would bring home the Big Red Banner, symbolic of the national championship. The 2004 version of the Hustlin' Owls was hardly a sure thing. Tech was the 16th seed at the tournament after losing the Cascade Conference Final to Albertson. OIT had a balanced attack. 5 players scored in double figures, led by the three-point shooting of Kevin Baker. He had plenty of help from Lavelle Hessia, who won All-America honors 3 times during his career, and Todd Matthews, who played the final 14 games of the season with a broken hand. Winning the NAIA tournament meant winning 5 games over 6 days. The Owls survived, defeating Bellevue of Nebraska in the final. Baker hit 6 three-point baskets, and Tech won the trophy with a 30-9 record. 4 years later, another OIT team that finished second in the Cascade tournament arrived at Cape Lookout, Missouri, the host city, as a low seed. And like many Tech teams, this one was anchored by small-town athletes and Southern Oregon natives. Ryan Feige and Miles Daly came from the powerful South Medford program. Feige led the team in scoring at 20 points per game. Australian center Josh Wetzler would nearly average a double-double and set a school record shooting 72% from the field. This Owls team finished with a 31-6 mark, and once again, Bellevue was the victim in the national championship game. After another 4 years, it was time for another Owls championship. The 2012 team title was not a surprise. OIT lost only 4 games and won the Cascade Conference regular season and tournament championships. This was another balanced Tech team. 5 players scored in double figures, led by Ironman Bobby Hunter, who averaged 32 minutes and 20 points per game. This team had its share of multi-sport athletes. Brian Sentman was also a decathlete, and Kyle Gomez an All-American in javelin. The Owls averaged 82 points a game, outshooting and out-rebounding their opponents. They finished their 5-game march through the tournament with a 63-46 win over Northwood University of Florida, coached by another legend, Raleigh Massimino. All of these championship teams had GPAs of 3.0 or better. All had at least 4 Southern Oregon natives on the roster. We welcome the championship teams of Oregon Tech basketball to the Oregon Sports Hall of Fame.
We have so many of you here from OIT, and I think we've got 3 people, and I want to bring them all up at one time. It'll be more comfortable for everybody. Rick Todd, Josh Wetzler, and, of course, Coach Danny Miles. Hi, Danny. Good to see you again. Hi, Josh. Hi, Rick. I'm going to start with you, Josh, because you're the tallest guy. How deep is your connection with this school and the coach?
Oh, it's incredible. I think kind of when you get recruited by Oregon Tech, you get the packet and you hear about the success and you see the crowds, and that really kind of makes a big impact. But it's the personal connections while you're there. I think I don't know if it's the type of character that kind of Danny recruits or if it's kind of making the commitment to Oregon Tech. You definitely have to be a certain type of person, but you really meet some incredible people kind of while you're there.
Rick, I want to ask you about your connection to these guys and the school.
I was working for a company when we became the company sponsor and honorary coach for OIT, and we started in 2003. And the opportunity that we had and the privilege to do that was just outstanding. And the company I work for is a theme park company. They own attractions and water parks and caves and aquariums. Silver City, you may have heard of. Dollywood, we're housed out of Branson, Missouri. But our job was really simple. When they got there, we were going to make them feel like champions until the day they left. And that's all we did. Whether it was gift shop or taking them out to the park and throwing some roller coasters on them, didn't make any difference. We were going to take care of them. And it was a great opportunity to get to know coaches and players. Coach Miles, this is a legend. How many coaches have got 1,000 wins? I mean, it just doesn't happen. So it was just a real treat to be around them. The mission of our company was to create memories for orthopedic for Hershey Family Entertainment. That's what they did for me. I will close by saying they had not won a national championship until I became an honorary coach. I'm available for hire at a decent price.
All right, Danny, put these teams into perspective for us.
Well, first of all, I want to thank the committee for picking our teams, and that's really a great honor. And I want to say something about Rick. Their company had a movie theater. We got to watch film in a movie theater, and we had a turnover, 24-hour turnover for the games. And instead of having 16 guys watching a small TV set in my room, we got that and made. He won us a lot of games, I'll tell you, and we really appreciate the kind of people that were sponsoring us. Big Josh here, I just want to say a word about him. He holds our school record, 71%. He can't shoot a lick, but he learned early on that you only take shots you can make, and it made him a great player, made our team great teams. I was really blessed. 45 years I coached Oregon Tech basketball, and 7 years Oregon Tech baseball, and 9 years Oregon Tech softball, and an offensive coordinator for 17 years. So I got to do it all, especially back in the early years when we all had to do more than one thing. But in fact, I got to tell a story. About the time, I think you basketball coaches remember when they changed the rims to the breakaway baskets, you know. And we went over to Southern Oregon play one night, and I said, guys, we're playing Southern tonight, you know, and it's our big rival. And thing about it, they got new rims, and they're breakaway rims. But the nice thing, Southern Oregon is also affiliated with the NCAA because of their wrestling team. And they had the option, since they're NCAA and NEI, or to use NCAA rims or NEI rims. And so NCAA rims are 1 3/8 bigger in circumference. And so I thought I'd get a laugh out of the guys. Nobody said a word, you know. So we go out and warm up, and my assistant coach, who was a real smart guy from Dartmouth, I can't find him, and I look around, I look out on the floor, he's underneath the basket looking up at the floor. So all those years, anytime we played a major college, we got told the guys were using NCAA rims, and we always shot the ball really well. But what was the question? I'm sorry.
I have to say, Danny, I'm old enough, I saw you play college football, and I thought at the time you had a real future coaching basketball. No, actually, you're a little undersized, but you were really good. You threw the ball all over the field. Anyway, congratulations to you all. It's great to have you all here. Thanks for coming and honoring a great program that the entire state has been proud of for decades. All right, unless you guys want to hang around for an hour or two talking to me, I think it's time to set you free. But we really appreciate you coming today. It's been a long road. Chuck talked about that. Postponements, pandemics, all the things that went into it. Hopefully from here on out, you can look forward to a great program run by Jim Etzel and his company at Sport Oregon. We hope to see you back again, whether someone close to you is honored or not. It's been a real pleasure. Drive safely, everybody, and thanks for coming.